They're calling it whiteout conditions. That means you get in your car, you put the windshield wipers to the max speed, and you start driving. But you still cannot see what is in front of you. A giant pickup truck could be 30 feet in front of you, and you can't see it because the snow is coming down so heavy and the wind is so fast, these snow flurries are just shooting straight at your car. But this is the Boston, Massachusetts area. They get an average of 45 inches of snow every single year. That's like more than half of my height. They should be used to it. But January 29th, 2022, it's getting pretty bad. There have been more than 100,000 power outages reported in the area. Some areas are experiencing wind gusts of 90 miles per hour. I mean, thankfully, that's only a few spots, but just to give you an idea, an average person can be knocked over, moved over by 67 mile per hour winds. 90 miles per hour, I mean, you're fighting against the wind as you're walking. Thankfully, most areas are 35 mile per hour winds, but it's still not great. This is a proper blizzard. One weather forecaster warns the residents. The storm emergency has been declared. Boston residents need to be prepared for this one. This is likely going to be an intense, dangerous storm with heavy snow, high winds, and whiteout conditions.
This has the potential to be a historic storm, a huge one. This is likely to be an intense, dangerous storm with heavy snow, high winds, and whiteout conditions.
Temperatures will be dropping into the single digit and below zero numbers. We are talking about treacherous conditions, dangerous, sometimes life-threatening conditions. Here in Boston, the best thing you can do is stay inside. That is why a group of friends decide they're going to have a blizzard party. They're going to hit up all the local bars, then come back to this guy named Brian's house, Brian the Blizzard guy, and they're going to celebrate a little bit more. So they all end up at Brian the Blizzard guy's house at around midnight. And people from midnight to about 2:30 a.m., one by one, these party goers, they start heading back to their own house, driving in the middle of the blizzard to get back to their beds. By 2:30 in the morning, only the residents of the house are still there. All the party goers, all the guests have left and gone, except for one. On the front lawn, about 6 to 8 feet from the curb, from the street, is the dead body of John O'Keefe, one of the guests that were invited to the blizzard party. He will be found at 6 a.m. in the snow. Police arrive at the house where the blizzard party just took place. They find John, this man, unresponsive in the snow. He's bleeding from the back of his head. He's missing a shoe. There's scratch marks on his arm. He's not even wearing a jacket. There's injuries to his face. He's just laying in the snow in the front lawn of this house. There are 3 women standing around his unresponsive body, and all of them, they know this man. They know John O'Keefe. One of them went to high school prom with him. Her name is Carrie Roberts. Another one has been friends with him for almost a decade, Jen McCabe. And the other one has been dating John O'Keefe for the past 2 years. Her name is Karen Reed. Karen Reed, the girlfriend, she's inconsolable. I mean, she's running around this blizzard screaming. She's throwing herself on John O'Keefe's body, lifting up her shirt, lifting up his shirt, trying to warm him up via body heat. She has blood on her face from trying mouth-to-mouth CPR. The woman that went to high school prom with him, Carrie Roberts, she's screaming at John's girlfriend, Karen. She's like, shut the fuck up. We need to be able to we need to get the blankets. She's like, Karen, you're doing too much. You need to sit down. She's freaking out, and it seems like the calmest one at the scene is Jen McCabe. John O'Keefe is ultimately rushed to the hospital and is pronounced dead. Now, the officers want to find out what the hell happened here. Karen Reed, John's girlfriend, tells the officers, she dropped him off at the blizzard party, drove back to John's house to go to sleep. She woke up and he still wasn't home, so she got really worried. She wanted to naturally come to the place where she last saw him, where she dropped him off, which is the blizzard party, and that's when she found him dead in the snow in the front lawn. Jen McCabe says, I was at the blizzard party last night. I was inside the house. She said she saw Karen Reed's car pull up at around 12:30. John O'Keefe's in the passenger seat, but neither of them ever came in.
So one of them is for sure lying.
Yeah, you'll see.
Okay.
Carrie Roberts, childhood best friend of John's and former prom date, she says she wasn't there at the party last night. In fact, she doesn't even really know these people. She only met Jen McCabe once, like 7 years ago. Karen Reed, she's been meeting her a few more times, but only through John. Like, she's besties with John O'Keefe. The only reason she's here is because Karen, John's girlfriend, called her an hour ago in the middle of the night at 5 a.m. screaming that John is dead. Carrie says, Karen, the girlfriend, she also mentioned a few odd things. Something about a cracked taillight. Karen also allegedly said something along the lines of, did I hit him? Did I hit him? Everyone involved in this incident has a very different story. So what happened between 12 and 6 in the morning? It seems like the people that would have the most clear answers are the people that were inside the house. But their stories just don't make sense. And they're starting to get very upset that people are accusing them of having anything to do with John O'Keefe being dead in the front lawn. They say whatever they've done to us is they've dehumanized us to the sense where we're not even real people anymore. We're almost like caricatures. We're just pawns. In an interview, they're asked, have each of you been called murderers, like actual murderers? Oh yeah, on a daily basis, and we get down, we get depressed, and it's like, but this is the town we grew up in. We didn't do anything wrong. Why should we have to go anywhere? Besides, someone else has already been arrested for the killing of their friend, John O'Keefe. His girlfriend, Karen Reed. She has been arrested for intentionally hitting her boyfriend with her car in a drunken fight, leaving him for dead in the snow in the front lawn. But why does nobody believe that? Netizens don't believe it. There were 2 trials and none of the jurors believed it. They believe that Karen Reed is being framed by the group of friends. Is it because every time their story is questioned, they start slipping up? Is it because none of their cell phone records really match what they're saying? Or does it have to do with the fact that every time they get up on that witness stand to testify, they start getting aggressive and they start having these collective bouts of amnesia as a friend group, where they cannot recall details that they should be able to recall? This is the case of Karen Reed and why everyone thinks that she has been framed. We would also like to thank today's sponsors who have made it possible for Rotten Mango to support greater good charities. They immediately mobilized volunteer teams in Central Texas that are providing critical humanitarian aid to people and pets affected by the recent floods. This episode's partnerships have also made it possible to support Rotten Mango's growing team. We'd also like to thank you guys for your continued support as we work on our mission to be worthy advocates. As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. A few disclaimers before we get started. There are references to driving under the influence, alleged physical assault. This is going to be the first episode in a 4-part series of the Karen Reed trials, which I know sometimes this series can be a lot. Please watch at your own discretion. This case also spans over 2 trials. So the first trial ended in a mistrial. However, even following all of the legal proceedings, this case is incredibly divisive. People say in the town of Canton, Massachusetts, this case is worse than politics. You do not bring it up at dinner parties. You do not bring it up in casual conversation with friends. People in high school are not talking to each other because of this case. Parents are not talking to their kids because of this case.
Wow.
It's very divisive, and our intention for this episode is not to sway anyone's opinion, but to present the facts of this case and the proceedings. Altogether, we went through hundreds of hours of courtroom footage, courtroom transcripts, testimonies, dash cam footage. I did my best to include both trials throughout this series, but of course, for the sake of time and clarity, many quotes and statements from testimony and or opening closing statements have been shortened, condensed, or combined. Any and all speculations, accusations, and allegations discussed are unproven and are representative of theories that you can publicly find online from numerous netizens. These are not like things that I came up with in my basement. These are discourse that's floating around in the internet. We maintain that all individuals are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Most importantly, I want to be very clear that John O'Keefe ultimately lost his life. Our team in no way, shape, or form are purposely trying to shift importance off of his death. Rather, and I think quite frankly, please be aware that John not being the primary focus of this case as a whole is more a reflection of how this case has been handled and presented by the authorities involved. And with that said, I have also created this wall. I was trying to explain to my husband a few of the people involved initially because as I'm researching, I do get a little confused and I want to talk to someone about it, and I'm explaining to him, okay, this is kind of the bare bones of the story. I explained 2 seconds and already he's like, I don't know who is who. So you're going to need some pictures or something. So this is the wall of people, because I think with this case, the deeper you dig, the more everyone is connected. It's not even just there's a lot of people. It's the fact that they're all somehow connected.
That's crazy.
And so with that, don't stress out about the people yet. We're going to get to each of them.
And then I see
Yes.
different colors and different color lines.
Yes, the colors do mean something eventually.
Wow. Okay.
So with that, let's get started. There is one case in Massachusetts that was so heinous that residents decided they want to bring the government to bring back the death penalty. They said, we don't care, we want them dead. There had been attempts before, but this one, it was practically a citizen-run campaign to get legislators to vote for the reinstatement of capital punishment by the state. That case is the murder of 10-year-old boy Jeffrey Curley. 10-year-old Jeffrey was trying to buy a bike. He doesn't have the money, but these two older men, they're like, we're gonna promise you a bike and we're gonna give you $50. Instead, they kill him, essay him, and dump his body in a Tupperware container.
My work is easy because I use ClickUp. It keeps everything organized, automated, and effortless. Let me show you how. I like to manage my projects on a list.
In the river. This was the biggest case in Massachusetts at the time. This was, especially because the two killers, they don't want to go down without fighting. One of them specifically is trying to argue, yeah, I was there, but I wasn't the one that physically kidnapped, nor was I the one that physically killed the little boy. It was the other guy. The lead prosecutor on this case, David Yannetti, he comes in swinging. He's telling the jurors in the closing statement, when you boil it down, this case comes down to the fact that 10-year-old Jeffrey Curley left Cambridge one afternoon and never came home because two men killed him.
And they purchased 2 cigars for the ride to Jane's apartment to smoke along the way while the lifeless body of Jeffrey Curley lies in their trunk. I ask you to find Mr. Sakari guilty of murder in the first degree and nothing less.
David Yannetti's closing arguments for this case was said to have been one of the most emotional closing arguments to take place in a Massachusetts courthouse. He is known in the state of Massachusetts for this case. But that case was decades ago. In 2022, David Yannetti no longer works for the DA's office. He's no longer a prosecutor. He actually owns his own criminal defense law firm, and he just took on a new client, Karen Reed. Probably not the biggest case on his desk. Woman potentially drunk driving in a blizzard, maybe hit her boyfriend with her car by accident. It's bad. It's really bad. Her boyfriend, John O'Keefe, was found dead in the snow in someone else's front lawn, but it's not a murder case. It's just a little tricky. David says at first glance, the whole thing seemed like perhaps a tragic accident until David Yannetti gets an anonymous phone call. Hello? David says the anonymous caller's voice is very gravelly. It sounds very scratchy and low. He's very vague. The man claims to have background as a Boston law enforcement officer, but he says something along the lines of, your client is innocent. Look inside 34 Fairview. Look at the people inside the house. John O'Keefe was beaten up by Brian Albert, Blizzard Brian, the homeowner, and his nephew. When John doesn't come to, Brian and a federal agent that happened to be at this party dumped John's body on the front lawn.
So the house is Brian's house?
Yes, Blizzard Brian. This is Brian Albert's home and his wife, Nicole Albert's home. This is where things get very strange. David Yannetti eventually calls this anonymous tipster back for this very mysterious tip. He wants more information for a longer interview, but the man starts backtracking. He's saying, well, no, I don't know for sure. I was just speculating based off the pictures that were released of John O'Keefe's body because it just didn't look like injuries from a car accident. But at the time that the anonymous tipster had called in for the tip, those autopsy pictures had not been released. No pictures of John O'Keefe's body after the fact had been released to the public. So what does he mean he was speculating based off of those pictures? He hasn't been able to see those pictures yet. It feels like the anonymous caller gets spooked and starts backtracking. Eventually, he flat out denies that he ever said that to David Yannetti, and he recants this entire tip altogether. But David Yannetti and his client, Karen Reed, they decide we are going to take a look inside of 34 Fairview.
Did we find out who the caller is?
It seems like there is a strong lead of who it is. Now, I really hate saying this about cases, but it does feel like an Agatha Christie novel, only in the sense, not in the sense of like, it's a murder mystery, but in the sense of like every single person inside has the potential motive to want John O'Keefe dead. And he is found dead on the lawn. and everybody is sus. January 29th, 2022, there is a birthday party inside of 34 Fairview Road. It's not just a blizzard party, and John O'Keefe is invited to that party. By 6 a.m., he's found dead in the snow outside, and every single person, they're weird. First of all, people keep forgetting and omitting who was inside the house the night of the party. It actually takes months for people to find out exactly who was inside the house that night. People keep conveniently forgetting other people. One woman that was at the house that night starts Googling at 2 a.m. how long to die in the cold before anybody was even found in the cold. And everyone leaves this so-called party and goes back to their homes, and there's a series of suspicious phone calls between the partygoers. They're calling each other up all night. Suspicious phone calls that conveniently nobody recalls. In fact, they say, you know what, that is strange. And I don't recall those because it must have been a butt dial. You are talking about over a dozen butt dials in one night between the partygoers.
Like from 2:30 to 6 a.m.?
Some of them are a little bit sooner than 2:30, but it's very weird. Now, the night you're talking about over a dozen butt dials the night that John O'Keefe was killed, what are the chances of that? Then there's the other small things, but I mean, they feel small at first, but it starts getting weirder. It's believed that John O'Keefe's body was laying out in the snow since 12:45 a.m. And yet every single person that leaves the party, leaves this house, drives past his body in the snow and does not see him in the front lawn.
Where did that 12:30 come from? That body was in the snow at 12:30.
We're gonna get there.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's debated if he was out there in the snow at 12:30, but it's just weird that nobody sees him in the snow because all the partygoers are saying, yeah, he was probably out there since Karen left because she hit him with the car. She left around 12:30, so he must have been laying out there since then. And yet none of them see him in the snow when they drive past. Then his girlfriend, Karen, she wakes up at 4 a.m. to realize that he hasn't come home. Now, one of the first places that she checks is 34 Fairview Road. She sees him lying in the snow, bleeding from the face. He looks like he's been in a fight. She starts hysterically screaming while a fire truck, ambulance, and multiple police cruisers arrive at the scene. And the homeowners, they never come outside. This is all happening.
Albert.
Brian Albert, Nicole Albert, they never come outside. They sleep through the whole thing, is what they say.
Is it like a really big house or
No.
So it's like a regular neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice house, but it's a regular residential house.
That's crazy.
It's not a mansion where the driveway is like 25 feet long and you're like, oh, well, that's a different zip code up there. No, it's your front lawn. Not only that, one of the residents inside the house is a first responder. When they find John's body outside, unresponsive, nobody goes and knocks on the door to wake up the homeowners. I mean, they're all very close friends, especially Jen McCabe. She was at the party last night. She doesn't go and knock on the door to wake up Nicole and Brian Albert to come help before the police arrive.
Yeah.
What's even weirder is that Karen Reed states that she did drop John off at the house and she saw him walk towards the front door before she finally drives off. Now remember, everyone inside the house said he never came inside. She said that she sees him walk towards the front door, and in fact, John's Apple Health data shows that after 12:20 a.m., which is around the time that his girlfriend drops him off, he takes 80 steps, which is the equivalent of half of a football field, and it shows that he went up and down 3 flights of stairs, which would be impossible had he just gotten out of the car and been hit by Karen Reed. But maybe the Apple Health data is wrong. There have been some reports that sometimes it heavily underreports the amount of stairs that you climb, which wouldn't really work in this case, but maybe it also overreports sometimes. Others say sometimes they drive up a hill and the Apple Health data will say that they climbed up the hill, but it's also very strange. Those are a lot of steps and those are a lot of stairs. And it would make sense based on the data that he went inside that house. But every single person is adamant and they say the same thing. John was never in the house. So does that mean he made a U-turn somewhere else at the very last minute? Or does that mean Karen Reed is lying? I mean, it must be true because everyone in the house is saying the same thing. John was never in the house. They all say that except for one person. During the trial for the murder of John O'Keefe, one person slips up. She's talking about the timeline when another partygoer leaves the house and she says,
he was not at the house when John was there, so I drove him home when John was there, so.
And people are wondering, did she just slip up on the stand that John O'Keefe was inside the house? So yeah, maybe
Whoa.
the anonymous caller, regardless of who they are, maybe they're on
So, what's the verdict?
gorgeous
You're looking incredible in that dress.
to something. If you're gonna say things that you don't want anyone to know about, the last place that you should say those things probably is in a group chat. In essence, a group chat is a bunch of people and a permanent transcript. People will take screenshots of group chats, post them online, or sometimes these group chats will be read out loud in the middle of a cramped Massachusetts courtroom, and you're gonna have to read every single word that was typed out to your friends when you thought nobody was gonna read them. Michael Proctor takes the stand, otherwise known in the group chat as Chip. Michael says he's known a lot of these group chat members since he was, in middle school, high school. I mean, these are his childhood friends. So from October 18th, 2021 to August 31st, 2022, about a year, there are 38,707 messages in this one group chat. But the only ones that the court cares about really are the ones starting from January 29th, 2022, the day that John O'Keefe is found dead in the snow. Michael, aka Chip, in the group chat gets a message from his friend. It's just a link to John O'Keefe's Facebook page. There's a quick conversation about John O'Keefe and his girlfriend Karen Reed, and he's texting in the group chat, she's a babe, like she's hot.
Wait, I'm so sorry. Timeline wise, this was after John O'Keefe was found dead.
Yeah.
Someone sent a
Yes.
link.
So everyone in the town is talking about it.
Oh, they're already talking
Yes.
about this death, and then someone sent Karen Reed's link.
John O'Keefe's Facebook link, but they're talking about Karen Reed because she's the girlfriend of John O'Keefe.
I see.
And this man, Michael Proctor, he says about Karen Reed, she's a babe, like she's hot. Weird Fall River accent though, saying that she's got a weird accent, and also comments she's got no ass. So his whole text reads,
Yeah, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass.
and of course, eventually there will be conversation about Karen Reed being arrested for hitting her boyfriend with the car, because it's all anyone in the whole town is talking about. And later, there's a picture sent in the group chat that is Karen Reed being arrested for hitting her boyfriend, and she's being escorted into the state police barracks. And one of Michael's friends texts in the group, "Is that chick a smoke?"
Is that chick a smoke? Question mark. I respond,
Nutbag. She's got a leaky balloon knot. It leaks poo.
I respond again, nutbag, as Chief would say. I also respond with, she's got a leaky balloon knot, leaks poo.
Michael Proctor said she has a leaky balloon bag.
Balloon knot, he's referencing her rectum. Yeah, and her medical condition. So she has MS. Now, on a later date, he texts in a group chat that people would find Karen Reed hot if you only, quote,
If you like women who shit themselves.
Michael also mentions that he's looking into Karen Reed and, quote, no nudes so far.
No nude so far.
Which these messages are really heinous, especially when they're read out in court. Michael Proctor's ears are turning bright red. But the problem is, Michael Proctor is not some random local incel still just rating women in the group chat that they can never date with their high school buddies. Michael Proctor is the lead investigator on the death of John O'Keefe. And this is what he's texting his buddies.
His police buddies?
Yes, he's a state trooper for the Norfolk County's DA's office. He's part of the homicide unit within Massachusetts State Police. He's taking the lead on the investigation onto the death of John O'Keefe. And his main suspect is Karen Reed, where he is going through her phone after her arrest looking for nudes. He texts his buddies, quote, no nudes so far.
That is fucking crazy. Which means they do that all day long.
Yeah.
On every single case.
He's also texted his supervisors that, and they don't reprimand him. They don't admonish him in the group chat.
Yeah, and
So
it's because the supervisor probably does that too then.
In other messages, Michael Proctor calls his main suspect in this case.
Yep, so these came from me. From all accounts, he didn't do anything wrong. She's a whack job, CUNT.
Objection.
So don't spell it. You have to. So these are your words.
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead and say them.
Then in a later text message, this time not with his boys, he texts his sister, Courtney Proctor, about Karen Reed, again, the main suspect that he's investigating. He says to his sister, I hope she kills herself. Then a few months later, he texts his wife, because Michael Proctor is married. He texts his wife, we're gonna lock this whack job up. And just like that, February 1st, 2022, Karen Reed is arrested and charged with manslaughter, motor vehicle homicide, and leaving the scene of a personal injury or death. The DA's office is saying that Karen Reed dropped John off at 34 Fairview Road and then ran him over with her car as she's backing up to leave the house and left his body in the snow on the front lawn. His body is found Saturday. She is arrested on Tuesday night. 4 months later, Karen Reed gets upcharged to second-degree murder. One person states, the line between gross vehicular manslaughter and second-degree murder is very, very thin. If you exhibit a disregard for the safety and the life of another person and they die as a result, you've got second-degree murder. So, for example, vehicular manslaughter means you're driving in a way that's negligent, reckless, unlawful, but you have no intent. Like, you don't go out like, you know what, if I kill someone tonight, I kill someone tonight. You have no intent to cause bodily harm. By upgrading Karen Reed's charges from vehicular manslaughter to second-degree murder, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is now saying, we still believe everything we said before, but now we think Karen did this on purpose. She ran her boyfriend over on purpose. You had intent to kill or cause serious bodily harm. Maybe you didn't plan on it, but in that moment, you had intent. Karen's attorney, David Yannetti, the one that received the anonymous tip, he is more thrown off by this because this is strange. He is a local attorney that has worked for the DA's office in Massachusetts for decades. He says usually when prosecutors decide to upcharge someone, they will reach out to the attorneys. It's just a thing they do. I mean, they did that in the Sean Combs case. It's just a thing they do to give them a heads up. Not that he was upcharged, but you get the idea. Especially an attorney like David Yannetti, who has worked for the DA's office for a very long time and has good relationships with prosecutors. It's not the exact DA's office, but he's a well-known former prosecutor. It doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't they let him know? Why wouldn't they give him a courtesy call? That coupled with the anonymous tipster, David Yannetti is saying something's weird. He said, it's so dirty and underhanded that they would go behind my back. What exactly are they trying to say Karen Reed did? The prosecution states Karen Reed got drunk at the bar, and when she got to drop off John O'Keefe at 34 Fairview, she gets into a fight with him in the car, backs up in her quick reverse to get out of that neighborhood, hits John O'Keefe, kills him, and leaves him for dead.
That on January 29, 2022, a very intoxicated defendant was angry and arguing about the relationship with John O'Keefe. And after the fight was over, she left, but she brought the fight back to him in the form of her SUV. She clipped him, he fell backwards, he broke his head.
The prosecution say they've got all the evidence to back it up, including every single person that was at 34 Fairview Road will tell you what happened, and you will conclude that Karen Reed killed her boyfriend.
That's a really dumb way to do it if that's what she wanted to do.
Yeah. Now, they're saying everyone at the party is going to let you know that Karen Reed did this. So let's start with the residents at 34 Fairview, the homeowners, Brian and Nicole Albert. These are the Alberts. The Alberts are very important. They're a very powerful, well-known, well-connected family in the town of Canton, Massachusetts, which is about a 30-minute drive to Boston. But it kind of operates like a small town. They've got a select board. So this is a very small town hallmark. You get a group of people that are voted in to directly oversee the town operations. So instead of a mayor, like most major mid-range to big cities have a mayor, you get a select board. 3 to 5 members, and they control everything. This all becomes important later, but in this small town of Canton, about population 24,000, the Alberts are a well-known, very big family. You've got Brian Albert, the dad. You've got Nicole Albert, the mom. You've got their son, Brian Albert Jr. Caitlin is also their daughter. She's important later, but Brian Albert Jr., we're going to call him Birthday Brian because it was his 23rd birthday that night.
Wow, he's young.
He's young. Now, Brian, Big Brian, he invites a ton of his friends over, including John O'Keefe, to the house. Birthday Brian already had a few friends over because it was his birthday. They have other kids, but they're not really important right now, and you have their dog, Chloe. a German Shepherd mix. Chloe is very important later. So birthday Brian decides he's going to invite friends over.
Oh, I see. The red ones are the Alberts family.
Well, the red ones are familial and or normal connections.
Oh, I'm talking about the background. The red background.
Yes. The red background are one part of the Albert family.
One part, okay.
One part.
Okay.
Birthday Brian is like, hey dad, mom, I'm gonna have people over for my little birthday party, so like could you skedaddle for a few hours and maybe come back later? So the parents, they decide that they're gonna go to a local bar called the Waterfall. Dad and mom, they're meeting up with their friends. They leave their family house. They get to the waterfall and they make an open invitation at around midnight because the waterfall is closing early. And they're saying, hey, it's birthday Brian's birthday. If you guys want to come over, get a few drinks. I mean, at the bar, they've got family, they've got friends, they've got acquaintances. They just make an open invitation. Anybody is welcome if you want to come over and keep the night going. And it's a small town, so no one's really a stranger. But for example, Nicole Albert will later testify that she wasn't really familiar with John O'Keefe or his girlfriend, Karen Reed. They just happened to be at the bar and they all ran in similar circles. So it's not like she's asking random strangers to come over, but she's not even well acquainted with them. It's just an open invite. They don't really do a head count at the bar. They're just like, come over if you want. And then they leave.
So John and Karen both were at the bar drinking.
Yes,
having
they
fun.
were invited.
Most of these people who went to the party later were at the bar already.
Yes.
What's AI saying about your brand? SEMrush's AI toolkit tracks how AI sees you and the competition, so you can take control of your AI visibility. Impressed? Explore all SEMrush toolkits and get what you need to grow.
Okay.
Unfortunately, a lot of people are driving while under the influence. There is CCTV footage of all of them at the bar, and we're going to go into depth in later episodes. But just know the waterfall is like the last moment of peace, it seems like. One local puts it, waterfall ended, everything went to chaos. Those last few moments where everything was okay were all caught on video in this quiet little bar restaurant. They get back to the house where birthday Brian is in the kitchen with a few of his friends. Nicole says, I mean, that's my son. So she comes in and she starts cleaning up the kitchen, checking the bathroom to make sure that everything is organized before the guests come over. And in walks Matthew McCabe and his wife, Jen McCabe. Jen McCabe is one of the 3 women to find John O'Keefe's body. She's actually been friends with John O'Keefe for nearly a decade, but she's also sisters with Nicole Albert. This blue line right here, that means they're siblings, related by siblings. Any blue lines are sibling relation. And it's kind of important. So, I mean, Jen is basically an Albert, but not really. She's kind of, they call them the McCabe Alberts online.
Okay.
So you've got Jen, who is sisters with Nicole Albert. So she's going to her sister's house to say happy birthday to her nephew. So she shows up. She was at the waterfall with her husband. She shows up with her husband when she gets a phone call. Jen McCabe gets a phone call from John O'Keefe. He's in the car. His girlfriend Karen Reed is driving, and they're trying to find the house. But it's just kind of unclear which house it is. Jen starts giving him directions over the phone. And now, side note, the homeowners know of John O'Keefe, like I said. They know Karen as John's girlfriend, but they know of John O'Keefe. Like, they're not friendly with John O'Keefe, and Karen is even lesser to them because she's just his girlfriend.
Right.
Jen McCabe, however, is very friendly with John. She's the one that invited them. So she's like, oh yeah, let me give you the directions. And she's telling him where the house is, which would indicate that he's coming over, right? Jen says at one point she looks out the window of the house and she sees this big SUV, one that is presumably Karen Reed's, and John O'Keefe is presumably in the passenger seat. It's very clear that they've arrived at the right house. They're here, they're out in the front. Jen says she goes to the window a few times. She's texting him at corresponding times being like, here, like you're here, right? And she sees the car in a few different positions. Like at one point it's further away. Now it's closer. Now it's just weird. And then eventually the car is gone. So she just assumes maybe Karen and John decided to call it a night last minute. Perhaps they got into a fight. Perhaps something happened. But according to everyone in the house, including Jen McCabe, neither John nor Karen ever make it inside. So they just leave? I mean, that's what everyone's saying. In fact, Brian Albert says John never came into my house that night. He would have been welcomed, and Karen Reed would have been welcomed with open arms had they had come in. I wish they had come in. I really do. Which is kind of a weird thing to say. Carrie Roberts is a close friend of John's, very, very close friend. She's the one that went to prom with him. She's like his childhood best friend. She is the other woman that finds John O'Keefe's body along with Karen Reed and Jen McCabe. She was not invited to the Waterfall Bar. Or even to 34 Fairview. She's laying in bed away from the winter storm when she gets a phone call from Karen at like 5 in the morning. And she had the opposite of a night of what everybody else had. She went bowling with her daughter and her daughter's friend. She comes home early because there's a storm coming. She just wants to be home. But her husband is on his way out. This is like 8:30. She runs into him and she's like, where are you going? He's like, oh, I'm going to the bar to meet John O'Keefe. So her husband is very close with John O'Keefe.
Who's her husband?
He's not on here, but his name is Kurt.
Oh, okay.
Kurt Roberts is a really close friend of John O'Keefe's, and they end up meeting at a different bar. So
Okay.
before the Waterfall, John was at a different bar.
Okay.
So they meet there, and his wife is like, okay, Carrie's like, I'm not going, I'm just trying to be home. And he also says, I didn't want to go either, but John and another guy friend of theirs, they wanted me to come up and, quote,
They reached out, they were at McCarthy's, the bar in Canton Center, and they wanted me to come up. And I was saying, I didn't want to, I wanted to stay in because there was a storm coming. And then he called me a pussy. And I, sorry, and I can't let that happen, so I had to go.
which I don't want to confuse you with too much timeline, but if it helps, John does meet up with a few friends at a separate bar called CF McCarthy's. That's actually where Karen comes to meet up with John.
Okay.
So she meets up with John and a few of John's friends. And then the rest of John's friends, they decide to go home early. John and Karen, they get invited to go to the Waterfall Bar. And that's where they meet up with all the Fairview people, the McAlberts.
Yeah.
Now,
did Karen say why she didn't want to go in after dropping off John?
Yes, she will explain later.
Okay.
Now, in both instances of both bars, Karen is mainly there for John. And I mean, she's not really friends with anybody else at the bars. Like, these are all kind of more so John's circle of friends, not hers. So Carrie's husband, Kurt, comes home early right after the first bar. He never gets invited to 34 Fairview. They hit the bed, they fall asleep, and Carrie shoots up out of bed to her phone ringing at 5 a.m. because why the hell is Karen Reed calling her? Carrie claims she picks up and she just hears Karen screaming,
"John's dead. Carrie, Carrie, Carrie." And then she hung up.
Carrie says she didn't even have the chance to have a conversation. Like, what do you mean he's dead? I mean, did you catch the timeline? Because nobody found John's body until 6 a.m. Carrie is saying Karen called her at 5 a.m. screaming John's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. Karen was screaming so loudly that Kurt Roberts, Carrie's husband, wakes up in the middle of the night and is like, who is that? Why are they screaming at you? He keeps asking Carrie, what the hell was that? And she's like, I don't know. She's jumping out of bed. She's pacing the room. She doesn't know if she should get dressed because what's happening right now. She says, I tried calling her a couple of times to be like, what is going on? Karen finally called me back and she said, I'm afraid John might be dead. So now it's, I'm afraid John might be dead. He might have gotten hit by a snowplow. Like, you know, those big giant trucks that plow the snow.
Mm-hmm. And this is still before 6 o'clock, right? Like
Yes.
5 something?
Yes.
Okay.
He did not come home last night. I think something happened. Carrie's trying to understand, well, where are you right now? I'm driving. Can I come to your house? Will you drive my car? I don't remember anything from last night. We drank so much, I don't remember anything. You're gonna get a DUI if you were drinking all night last night and you don't remember anything. You shouldn't be driving. I'm gonna come to your house. Will you drive my car? Carrie says after that she starts getting dressed and she says, quote, I think that's when my husband was like, where are you going? I just said, I don't know, something happened. John didn't come home. Karen's worried, so I'm gonna go look, go help her. And he said, you're not going anywhere. It's a blizzard. And I said, yes, I am. I went downstairs. I started the car. So Carrie Roberts gets in her own car and starts heating it up, cleared it off, waits for Karen to get there, and she doesn't come. So she's calling all these people, and Carrie says that she's waited in the car for about 10 minutes, which there are a lot of interesting things about this part, which is, first of all, John is Carrie's husband's close friend now, too. I mean, obviously, Carrie Roberts knew John for the longest, but she introduced her husband to John, and they're close enough that John invites Carrie Roberts' husband to the bar last night.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't want his wife to go out in the storm, and yet she's sitting in her car for 10 minutes, like 10 full minutes. He could have tried to stop her. He could have gone with her. I don't know. It's intriguing. It's not particularly suspicious, but it is weird. Now, Carrie says after waiting, Karen doesn't show up. Carrie's probably sitting in her car getting more and more anxious every second, so she finally picks up her phone, calls the non-emergency line for the local police department. Sergeant Good from Canton Police picks up.
Some of the most brilliant minds in business. No, not you. Or you. You. You're always looking for new insights with QuickBooks Online. And you use QuickBooks Payroll to pay your employees. And you send invoices with QuickBooks Payments, so you can focus on this. Get the full picture of your business on one platform. That's how you business differently. Intuit QuickBooks.
Can't believe Sergeant Good.
Hi, my name is Carrie. I'm calling because my friend's boyfriend did not come home last night. We were at Waterfall, and now she is calling me hysterical because she doesn't know where he is. You didn't pick anybody up by the name of John O'Keefe, did you?
No.
I think he probably got a ride and passed out at someone's house, but I don't know.
Is that the Good I'm looking at?
Oh yeah, that is exactly the one you're
Sean
looking at.
Good.
Sean Good. Now, the operator tells her that he hasn't heard any news or anything of that sort. Carrie says at that point, I wasn't super worried. I mean, he didn't come home, but they were out drinking, so I assumed he's probably on someone's couch. Finally, Karen calls Carrie back, and Carrie Roberts testifies later. I said, where are you, Karen? I'm in the car. And Karen said, I'm at Jen's house. And I said, Jen who? She said, Jen McCabe. She's gonna drive my car. And I said, okay, stay there. I'll come. We'll follow and we'll drop your car off.
Wait, so Karen is the whole time saying either asking Carrie or Jen to drive her car?
Yes.
Why is that?
Oh, she's so hysterical.
Oh, she's not good enough to drive right now. Like, she's not well.
She's beyond hysterical.
Oh.
Yeah.
Carrie is claiming Karen already knows that John is dead at 5 a.m. before finding John's body.
That's what Carrie initially claims. There's lots of changing claims as well.
Okay.
And there's a lot of like, well, I didn't necessarily mean it like that.
Okay.
But we don't know what Karen said. And also later when Karen does call back the second time, she's like, I think he might be dead. So it could have been that she's so hysterical and she's just like freaking out. He's dead. But she doesn't know. I mean, there have been some people arguing that. There have been some people being like, no, Carrie is flat out lying about it. We don't know. We're not privy to the actual phone call.
I see.
So Karen is now telling Carrie that she's at Jen McCabe's house. And Carrie is telling her, okay, well, just stay there. I'm going to come to Jen McCabe's. I'll follow you. We'll drop your car off. We'll just take my car and go look for John. She says, I drove to Jen's. I pulled in the driveway behind them, and I was still on speakerphone. Jen is driving. Karen's in the passenger seat, and we drove. I said, do you remember? Like, look, did you go through John's house looking for John? Could he be passed out somewhere in the house? And she said, I don't know. I didn't look. So I said, let's just go do that. Let's get in 2 cars and we're going to go back to Meadows and we're going to go look inside of John's house first. He could be passed out on the couch or on the floor. Who knows? So we went back to his house. Now, as for Jen McCabe, Carrie says she's only met Jen once before. So John is their link. John knows both of them, and John had taken both of them to get Reebok sneakers. He had like a 50% discount at Reebok, so he invited Carrie Roberts and Jen McCabe to go buy sneakers with him. And Carrie says, we got the shoes, and then we went to Hillside for lunch, and that was it. I wasn't friends with Jen McCabe. Now, that was like 6-7 years ago. Interestingly enough, she does happen to know exactly where Jen McCabe lives, though, because their kids would all hang out. Or at least that's what she initially made it seem like. Later, she clarifies, I didn't know where Jen's house was. That's why I stayed on the phone with Karen. Now, people are suspicious about it, but nonetheless, Carrie says, I pull up in the driveway behind Karen's car. Karen and Jen are still in the car talking. I'm on Bluetooth. And Karen said that she remembered leaving John at the waterfall, at the bar. So Jen was at the waterfall too. And she's like, no, I literally saw you pull up to my sister's house. What are you talking about? Then at some point, the conversation ends and Karen says something along the lines of, what about my taillight? What about my taillight? Karen says she looked out the front of her windshield and she's parked behind Karen's car so she can see Karen's taillight. And the right passenger side taillight looks cracked. It's missing pieces of the taillight. So she's like, that is weird. That's weird.
Who said that's weird? I'm sorry.
Carrie. She's like, that's weird. So once they decide that they're going back to John's house, Jen McCabe and Karen drive Karen's car, and Carrie Roberts follows her in her car. So we've got 2 cars leaving Jen McCabe's house to John's house. They pull up in John's driveway where Carrie says something very strange happens. John is a super neat freak, and she says, you do not wear shoes inside of John O'Keefe's house, ever. Carrie says, Jen and I both had taken off our shoes in the garage before we went into the mudroom. We took our shoes off, and Karen just walked in. She remembers this because, quote, Jen and I were standing there for about a good 2 minutes trying to get our boots off, and she had already gone in the house. People interpret this 2 separate ways. This is why I'm saying this case is so divisive. Everybody has a different interpretation. So 1, some people think that Karen knows John is not coming back, so she's not following any of his house rules anymore. He can't get mad at her anymore because he's no longer around. Or others are arguing, yeah, because her freaking boyfriend is missing. What do you mean? She's gonna waste her time to take off her shoes?
Yeah.
But Carrie claims it gets weirder. They get inside the house. Carrie claims she and Jen are looking everywhere for John. And she says, quote, I started looking on the other side of the couches to see if maybe he had passed out somewhere. And then I went upstairs and Karen was standing in John's room. The bed was made. She was just standing there, indicating that Karen is not looking for John. This is interpreted in 2 ways. Some people think, again, this is weird. She knows not to waste her energy looking for John here. She knows that John is dead. Others say, what do you mean? She doesn't get why they're searching that house. She already indicated to the 2 women before, Carrie and Jen, why are we going back there? I was just there. I woke up from John's house. It's not like I never went to John's house. Sure, I didn't search it, but I would have known if he came home. So Karen had fallen asleep on the couch waiting for John to come home.
Yeah.
So she's saying, I would have known if he had come home.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
And that's assuming they're saying if Karen already knew John's not there, that means she's doing all of this, coming to these 2 women, putting on a show. Then she would have put on a better show if she's acting like...
She would have searched.
Yeah, she will search, she will act, she will do all of that, but no.
But she's just like standing, and we don't even know if this actually happened. Maybe she was searching, maybe not. Right. Here is a dirty little secret that the insurance industry may want to keep under wraps. Insurance companies profit by holding onto your money for as long as possible. Morgan & Morgan fights hard against these corporations to fight to make sure you get every dollar that you deserve. When in court, the insurance companies, they want jurors to think the at-fault driver is the one paying the verdict amount. Meanwhile, it's usually the insurance companies who are covering the cost. When Morgan & Morgan takes on a case, they are almost always going after the big insurance companies and not the individuals at fault. A recent client in Pennsylvania just received $29 million. The insurer's best offer was $500,000. I mean, there's a reason why Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury firm. Hiring the wrong firm can be disastrous. I mean, hiring the right firm could substantially increase your settlement. With Morgan & Morgan, it's easy to get started, and their fee is free unless they win. Just click the
I'm Javani Hall Art, and you can follow me on Instagram, Blue Sky, Tumblr, TikTok, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Patreon for more exclusive stuff. Links are in the bio. First rough pass of Chun-Li. I'll come back on and clean up some more. Alright, see you guys in the next one. Bye!